South Korea's main opposition party has proposed a bill seeking a special counsel investigation into the martial law decree by President Yoon Suk Yeol.
The Democratic Party hopes to put the bill to a vote on Thursday, accusing Mr. Yoon of insurrection. Now, the party's lawmakers have also been calling for his immediate arrest after failing to secure the two-thirds majority needed to impeach him. Now, opposition leader Lee Jae-myung plans to try again to impeach Mr. Yoon in a vote planned for this Saturday, December 14th.
He's hoping to convince at least 8 members of the president's People Power Party to cross over, giving the Democratic Party enough votes to remove the president from office. Mr. Lee announced, or rather denounced, the ruling PPP's earlier statement, which said it would devise a plan for the president to step down early in an orderly fashion.
대한민국 헌정 질서를 파괴한 내란 주범, 군사 반란 주범 윤석열은 즉각 사퇴하거나 아니면 즉각 탄핵되어야 합니다.
In the meantime, prosecutors have been questioning former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun, who was arrested yesterday. He is alleged to have proposed martial law to the president. A prosecutor seized his mobile phone and raided his home and offices, and they've also prohibited him from leaving the country. The Interior Minister Lee Sang-min, who quit yesterday for failing to serve the public and president well, is also being probed for alleged insurrection. Reports say others, including Army Chief of Staff Park An-soo, are aiding investigations. General Park was named martial law commander by President Yoon.
Mr. Yoon's short-lived imposition of martial law last Tuesday has thrown the country into its worst political crisis in decades. It sparked demonstrations and calls to have the president removed. And for more, we're joined by Jeffrey Robertson, Associate Professor of Diplomatic Studies at Yonsei University. Professor, thank you very much for joining us. So Yoon Suk Yeol and his party, the PPP, have apparently bought themselves some time. But I'm wondering, to do what exactly? I mean, why does Han Dong-hoon prefer Yoon to resign as opposed to impeachment?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's what everyone is wondering. Basically, the plan is, I believe, they want to show that they are able to control the situation and they are responsible for ending the chaos. If it is just a simple impeachment, then it looks like the opposition party was responsible for ending all of this chaos. But if the Prime Minister and the party leader are able to demonstrate that they're in control and they're able to demonstrate that they are able to resolve the crisis, then it looks like they have had more influence and they are in control of the situation. But I don't think anyone's buying it.
Professor, so what do you think President Yoon's internal calculations are at this stage? I mean, do you think he is likely to step down voluntarily, or will he continue to fight for his position? What are some of the factors influencing his decision here?
Well, you're asking me a really difficult question there. You know, trying to know what Yoon is actually thinking before he imposed martial law is beyond all belief. And trying to think what he is actually contemplating right now, again, beyond all belief. It's impossible to know what he's thinking. But you know, if I had to give an estimate, I would say that he wants to hold on to power. He wants to remain in the position for as long as he can. But it's going to be very, very difficult.
It certainly looks so. Prosecutors are already closing in on him, naming him a suspect in the treason investigation. Given that treason is punishable by death or life imprisonment in South Korea, how likely is it that the probe could lead to sort of a significant criminal charges against Yoon, and what sort of impact could that have on his political future?
Well, there are a lot of people who want him to be punished. I mean, it is the first time martial law has been declared in a very long time. It harks back to the 1980s. And that is an incredible impact upon every single person in the country. There's nothing that anybody else is talking about. And it's thrown the country into absolute chaos at the moment. We have at the moment, a constitutional crisis where we don't even know who is actually running the country. If there's a determination to be made on investment or the environment or any aspect of government, it's going to come under legal question. So, this is such a big issue that people are going to want some form of punishment. They want to demonstrate that this should never, ever happen again. And there is a very strong case for him to spend some time behind bars. And, well, that's not unusual for South Korea's ex-presidents, in fact.
Professor Robertson, I just want to circle back to the point you were making about how the PPP may be trying to project an image of a party in control. Okay, so it's boycotted the impeachment vote, saying it would prefer a resignation, but we also know that there's massive public pressure. I believe the last polling number was 73, maybe 74% of all South Koreans believe he should be impeached. We know one is possibly coming soon as well. So my question is, how long can the PPP keep stalling and backing Yoon without, I guess, causing permanent damage, to the party, which already, is in control of parliament?
Listen, the permanent damage has already been caused. The PPP is in dire straits. And in my estimation, they're going to sooner or later collapse and rename themselves, rebrand themselves into a new party. That's what conservative parties in South Korea do after a period of upheaval. They're in dire straits. If they push for the impeachment, it looks like the opposition is in control. If they allow Yoon to keep on running the country, every day the public gets more and more against them. There's general strikes, there's demonstrations. It's just absolute chaos. So something needs to be done. And, if the PPP can't undertake this, they're going to be the ones who will fall apart and end up having to rebrand themselves.
And then how do you think the opposition leader, Lee Jae-myung, is calculating his political moves in the current crisis? We know he's mired in several legal challenges. Do you think he is trying to expedite the impeachment process in hopes of triggering a presidential election, perhaps, before the Supreme Court's decision on his case?
Well, Lee Jae-myung has got an interesting strategic array in front of him. He may want to allow the chaos to keep on going on, because every day that chaos keeps on going on, it weakens the government and it weakens the PPP. So he's not too keen on strategically ending the situation. But he's also, a very strong Democrat, and he's a very strong people's person. So he may want to get it over and done as soon as possible. Given the support that he's already garnered for showing his opposition to the imposition of martial law, and given the support which is building every day, I'm pretty certain that he also wants it to end soon enough.
Prof. Robertson, just want to ask you about a matter which you're probably more familiar with than I am, which is the legal aspects of the case, the constitutional aspects of the case. The former Defense Minister, Kim, in custody. I'm wondering how important will he be in terms of the police investigation into Yoon's alleged insurrection, and also is a possibility of some sort of a plea deal, plea bargain, is that possible in terms of South Korean law and possibly on the table as well?
Yeah, certainly. There's new information coming out every moment. Probably by the time we finish talking, there'll be new information which has come out. The investigation will continue, and once all of the information comes out, there will be a case. And if there is a term for the accused, then there will be a chance for them to plea out. There will be a chance for them to get a lighter sentence if they admit their wrongdoings. But the public is very strongly for ensuring that this never happens again, and ensuring that there is a fair degree of resolve amongst politicians that this should just never happen. And that requires a degree of punishment.
Professor, the ruling party has suggested that Yoon will be sidelined from state affairs ahead of the potential early resignation. What do you think the orderly transition of power will entail, and what sort of constitutional challenges could arise from this?
Yeah, this is the most difficult point of all. So, ostensibly, the Prime Minister and the party leader are managing the country, and Yoon is not meant to be running the country. But he is still appointing ministers, so they still require his signature to appoint ministers or to make determinations which require it under the Constitution. So this means that any decision which is made is legally questionable. And this is going to result in any number of legal cases. If you think about, for example, an investor-state dispute, or if you think about an environmental determination, there's going to be constitutional cases which will inevitably come up.
And Professor Robertson, just very, very quickly before we let you go, my understanding is that if President Yoon does resign, elections have to be called in 2 months, whereas in the case of an impeachment, it could take 6 months, perhaps longer. This is perhaps a shot in the dark. Is it possible that the PPP has chosen the resignation route because that would expedite the process as well?
An election has to be called, but first of all, as soon as somebody is impeached in the National Assembly, it has to go to the courts, and the court case is decided in the Constitutional Court. And at the moment, the Constitutional Court only has 6 justices. There's required to have 7 justices for a decision to be made because of recent retirements. They need to appoint new justices first. It's going to be a slow process, and that slow process is going to run out. And then there will be enough time for an election. But given the chaos and the uncertainty of everything, everybody wants this to end as soon as possible. And it's in the interest of the PPP to get this over and done with as soon as possible before they attract more and more public furor.
Understood. Professor Robertson, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us. Jeffrey Robertson, Associate Professor of Diplomatic Studies at Yonsei University.